Station Houston. This is Stations Houston, Space to Ground 2. You ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
Creighton Middle School, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check. Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Okay.
Station, this is Creighton Middle School. How do you hear me?
Creighton Middle School, this is Space Station. We hear you loud and clear.
Good morning, Captain Dan Burbank and Flight Engineer Don Pettit. I'm Ann Carboni, 7th grade team leader at Creighton and NASA volunteer solar system educator. On behalf of the students and faculty at Creighton Middle School, Richland District 1 in Columbia, South Carolina, I'd like to welcome you and thank you very much for taking the time to answer our questions today. And here is our first question.
Hello, Dan. My name is Alexis, and here's my question. What obstacles did you go through to become an astronaut?
Hi, Lexi. Welcome aboard the International Space Station to you and to all your classmates and the teachers and staff from Creighton Middle School. I think I, like many of the other astronauts and cosmonauts in the space program, probably went through a number of obstacles to get here. Number one, I think, was probably a personal one, and that is I had to have enough self-confidence when I was younger to believe that this was something that I could do. And in my case, it wasn't until I was an adult and already a Coast Guard pilot and engineer that I applied to NASA. And I was one of many, many people that applied to become an astronaut. And the first time I applied, I was not selected. The second time, I was also not selected. And finally, on the third time, I was selected. So persistence, the lesson to just keep trying, even if you don't succeed the first time, was real important for me.
Hello, Don. My name is Christina, and my question is, how do you stay in contact with your family when you are gone for a long time?
We could stay in contact with our family by using S-band and Ku-band radios that we have on Space Station. These are different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum. And we use these radios to talk to our families in private family conferences, and we actually have video as well, so I can see my family and they can see me.
My name is Meredith Quarles, and I'd like to know, what is the most surprising thing you have seen so far?
That's a really hard question to answer when you live on the International Space Station, live in space. Every day there's something new and surprising that you see. Probably for me, the most surprising thing I saw was on December 20th, shortly before Christmas. It was nighttime and Space Station was flying over Australia, and the sun was just about ready to rise. The sun was just about ready to rise, and before it did, I saw a bright streak of light that extended from where the sun was about to come over the horizon all the way up as far as I could see. And I didn't know what could have caused that. And I've seen lots and lots of stars from space. I've seen lots of nighttime, lots of daytime views of the Earth, and this was something entirely new. And it turns out it was a big surprise to a lot of people, and it was a comet, a brand new comet that had just survived a close encounter with the sun and was on its way back out to the outer solar system. And it was probably the first few hours, or first day at least anyways, before it just came by the backside of the sun, and it was spectacular. Very surprising.
My name is Lauren Kozada, and here's my question. Have you discovered any effects that space may have on the growth of a living organism, such as a plant?
There are a number of different effects on growing organisms on space station. And maybe the prime example of that is us, the crew on space station. And one thing that happens is your bones can decalcify, and we do exercise to counteract the bone decalcification. Another thing that can happen is your muscles can shrink, and again, the exercise helps that. In terms of growing plants, plants are kind of difficult to grow in a weightless environment. You often need to have a pretty sophisticated terrarium that provides all kinds of things for them and can handle the fluids. And as far as the plants grow, they seem to grow pretty much the same as they do on Earth.
Thank you. My name is Kennedy. What is an example of an experiment you have worked on while on the ISS that will have a potentially positive effect on humanity?
Hi, Katie. There's a lot of experiments we're doing on board Space Station right now. A lot of them are life sciences experiments. A lot of them are understanding how to keep humans healthy in space long enough to go to distant destinations like the Moon and Mars. And some of them are basic physical science kinds of experiments. For example, I think in your field of view right now, towards the very upper part of it, there's 2 racks that are right near us right now that have been in use over, including this past week and also in the previous months. And those, the experiments we had going on in those racks were specifically targeted for a better understanding how combustion works in a very, very pure sense, something that we can't replicate on Earth because of the gravity-induced effects of convection and how that influences flames. So here we can study in an absolutely perfectly pure environment and isolate the effects of gravity, for example, and better understand how combustion works, how sooting works, how the production of dust and combustion byproducts works. And by so doing, better understand it so that through a whole host of different industries on the ground, we can use that kind of knowledge to make combustion cleaner and reduce pollution.
Thank you. My name is Samantha, and my question is, do you have a ritual or a tradition that you do before you go into space?
Well, when we flew on the space shuttle, we would have a breakfast, a crew breakfast, before we'd get on our spacesuits and roll out to the launch pad. In Russia, we go to the Kremlin Wall and we pay our respects to the Yuri Gagarin and other heroes of the Soviet Union that are entombed within the wall of the Kremlin.
Thank you.
My name is Nehemiah, and here's my question. Why do astronauts exercise a lot while on the ISS?
That's a great question. It's a very important one. It turns out that we adapt very, very quickly to whatever environment we're in. And the way I think about it, this is a little bit like the use it or lose it philosophy or rule. So what happens here is your bones are just as strong as they need to be. Your muscles are just as strong as they need to be. The organisms or the organs in your inner ear that help maintain your balance are tuned exactly the way they need to be for us to be operating wherever we are. And for you right now, and for us before we launched, that was on planet Earth. So here in space, our bones don't have to be terribly strong. So our body will get rid of the calcium, the minerals in the bones, and they'll be strong enough to do the things that we do up here. Our muscles don't need to be as strong. Our circulatory system and our cardiovascular system that supports exercise doesn't have to be tuned quite the way it is on Earth to be able to operate in space. So what we have to do here is, if we were going to live in space forever, then this would be fine. We wouldn't need to exercise. We would become creatures of space and be perfectly adapted to it. But we want to return home. We want to go back to our families. And returning home means returning back to the 1G gravity environment of planet Earth. So that means we have to exercise an awful lot by at least our normal standards on Earth. So we exercise 2.5 hours a day, and that includes running or bicycling, And it also includes weightlifting, or the form of weightlifting that we can do up here. And that is crucial for us to be healthy after the flight.
Thank you.
My name is Diamond, and I'd like to know, what is the most exciting experiment you are working on now?
Well, one science experiment that I'm working on is actually working on me, and that's this exercise protocol called Sprint, where I do real heavy-duty workouts, and with the understanding and the data collection to see how that affects your muscle volume, and affects your cardiovascular system, and how it affects your bone density. That's an exciting project. Another exciting project is this Marangoni convection experiment. It involves taking liquids and drawing them out into a long liquid cylinder. So you got this bridge, as we call it, and then you look at how the liquid gets stirred around when you heat one end of it. And it's what we call fundamental science, and learning the principles of the fundamental science is really, really interesting.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ian, and I wanted to know, has there ever been a malfunction on the space station, and if so, how did you correct it?
Hi, Ian. Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you have a space station or a spaceship as big as this one, I think it would be impossible to have it operate without ever having any excitement or any malfunctions in the hardware. And this is about 1 million pounds worth of spaceship. It's a huge laboratory. So we get our share of various malfunctions. Thankfully, none of them serious. This weekend on Sunday morning, for instance, we had a malfunction with one of the electrical power system boxes. We've got giant solar arrays, probably about an acre worth, that gather the sun's energy and turn it into electrons to run all the experiments, to run all the life support equipment that we have, and basically everything on board Space Station. And one of the components in that very complicated and very capable system actually had a problem. It basically spontaneously rebooted itself, if you will, if your computer were to just power down and power back up. Wasn't anything serious. It required more work on the process on the part of the people in mission control that had to reconfigure the systems to recover from that. But the space station is pretty well designed so that if things like that happen, there are backup systems that automatically step in place. So for us, we heard some alarms. We got up, we saw some messages. Space station was flying along just fine, and it took a few hours later, and everything was back completely to normal. Now there'll still be some kinds of things that Don and I, or Andre, or Oleg, or Anton, or Anatoly, the 6 crew members here, will have to actually put human hands on to fix. And some of those systems include the toilet system that we have here. That is a very refined, very sophisticated one that converts urine, believe it or not, into very drinkable, very pure water. And it's an incredibly complicated system. It's also a system that can help us understand how to purify water on planet Earth and do it efficiently and effectively. But occasionally it needs a little bit of help. And whenever that happens, when there's a problem with it, we step in and we fix it. And actually, the maintenance part of keeping the space station running is one of the more interesting and exciting, parts of being here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jacob, and here is my question. What do you do, and is your job fun?
What do we do on Space Station? It falls into 2 basic categories. One, we take care of Space Station. We maintain the systems, we repair the systems. And the second thing that we do is we do science experiments and engineering research. And it's a lot like living on a sailboat, where you spend a lot of your time just fixing the sailboat, and then some of your time sailing the sailboat. And that's what you do when you live on a vehicle that's out in the wilderness.
Thank you.
My name is Blythe, and I would like to know, what are some of the functions of Robonaut, and what is it like to work with him?
Well, it's a very timely question. So right here in your field of view, towards the right side of your screen, you should see Robonaut. And he is designed as basically a technology demonstration experiment to basically understand how best to employ a robot on board a space station. And right now he's all configured to work inside a space station. We're doing checkouts right now on him, but it's a very sophisticated and capable robot. Its hands and arms and neck and waist, all told, have about over 40 degrees of freedom. That means he can move in almost as many ways as human beings can. His hands are roughly human hand size, so all the tools that we use on board space station, he's perfectly well suited to use. He's got, in place of our eyes, he's got 2 video cameras that actually are stereo optics, so they can actually, just like our eyes, human eyes, we can actually determine how far away something is by a process called parallax. And he can do the exact same thing. So he can interact with tools and various kinds of things, and he can actually track his own hands as they move, his fingers as they move, interact with equipment that we have here. Right now we're in checkout mode, but down the road, the kinds of things we'd like to do is have him do things that are routine, that are maybe would be better suited for a robot than perhaps a human. We would like to also be able to take him outside during a spacewalk. There's a lot of things that we do that tend to be a little bit more dangerous than other things, and the more dangerous things I think would be perfectly well suited for a robot like this.
Thank you.
Hello, Don. My name is Emmanuel, and my question is, what recreational activities do you engage in while on the space station?
We spend most of our time working on space station. We do have some off-duty time. And in the off-duty time, there are a number of things you can do. Some of them are the same kinds of things you could do on Earth. Like you could check your email and read and do things like that. Or you can go to one of any number of windows that we have on space station and look out at planet Earth and look out at our solar system. And what I enjoy to do the most is looking out the window at this amazing solar system that we have, or doing little science demonstrations that take advantage of the weightless environment that we're living in.
Thank you very much.
My name is Hampton, and I'd like to know, what's your funniest moment on the ISS?
Hampton, this is a very serious business. We don't permit funny things to happen here. But no, in all seriousness, it's a really difficult question to answer. I'm trying to think. I guess probably in general, I would say there's so many things that happen that are associated with being weightless that it takes your brain a little while to understand, even after you've been here for months and months. I would just put it this way. It's really easy to lose things, and it's very easy to lose things for quite a long time sometimes. Gravity is a really good organizer. If you drop a tool or if you drop a toy or whatever, it ends up on the XY plane of the floor. If you drop something on space station, for example, and that happens a lot, it's very easy to have happen, it goes anywhere, X, Y, Z, anywhere it wants, and the airflow on space station typically takes it to one of several favorite locations, and those are the inlet screens for the ventilation system. So every week or so, when we do a good cleaning of space station, it's a little bit like a treasure hunt, and we can see whose spoon, whose tool, whose glasses turn up on some of these favorite little locations. But I guess that's maybe one example. But every day it's full of things that kind of make your brain stop and say, well, now that's funny. How did that happen?
Thank you.
My name is Quaviandre. What are the different varieties of food that are offered on the ISS? And do you have to eat some foods that you don't like?
Sometimes.
Yeah, do we have to eat food that we don't like? Well, I guess it depends on if you want to go to bed hungry.
Yes.
We have other crew members off camera that are shaking their heads too. We have the kind of food we have is sort of like camping food, and we have dehydrated food, freeze-dried food, and all we do is squirt some either warm water or hot water in it. And then we squish it around a bit and then cut open the package and eat it out of the package. Or we have thermally stabilized packets. And this is kind of like canned meat without the can. And so it's a foil polymer package that can keep meats and other products safe without having to have the weight of a can. And then we have drinks. And it's kind of hard to have an open container in Space Station, although there are ways that you can do that. And we do drink most of our fluids from these bags. It's kind of like a juice bag that you'd have from the grocery store, but this is just an empty bag and we fill it full of water, and sometimes it has grapefruit drink in it, sometimes it has coffee, and that's how we do our eating on station.
Dan and Don, on behalf of Creighton Middle School students and faculty, thank you so much, and we wish you a pleasant rest of your journey.
And thank you for joining us. It was great to have you aboard today.
And Robonaut says thank you too.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
And thank you, Creighton Middle School Station. We are now resuming operational audio communications.